Welcome to another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is Dr. Tushar Mehta. He is an ER physician in Canada, and he also volunteers with NGO projects in India and Haiti. He's an expert lecturer on plant-based vegan nutrition. Stick around. I'd like to introduce him to you. Hi, Dr. Mehta. How are you?
Hello, Nancy. Nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you as well. It's nice to have you on our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invite.
I would like to start by asking you, you are an ER physician and you're vegan. So can you tell me your journey into veganism?
Sure. I think it starts when I was very young. My parents brought me to India. My family is originally from there. And I saw tremendous poverty in so many places when I was there as a child. That had a really deep impact on me. And since then, I was very sensitive to people's suffering and more interested over time about social justice issues and fairness in society and in the world. As time went on, I became very interested in environmental issues, and I also learned about animals and what they go through as well. So I became interested in compassion towards animals and the suffering of animals and the ethics and philosophy therein as well. So that got me onto my journey. I became vegetarian around 16, and it took me a long time to get rid of the rest of the animal products, which I slowly learned about. But eventually I became vegan as well, and I've been vegan for about 10 years now.
That's awesome. And before I ask you about your website, I heard one of your speeches, and in it you talked about, the question about whether we're omnivores or herbivores or carnivorous. Right. And right. You had mentioned something about going to India and seeing a dog. I don't know if you remember the story.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Can you just share that with us?
Yeah, it's not, the story isn't so pretty, but people often have this debate whether we are omnivore, herbivore, et cetera. And I think human physiology is more towards plant-based foods, for sure. There's lots of reasons, lots of evidence to support this, but that doesn't mean that we were completely never ate any animals, throughout our evolution. There was a time in our evolution for millions of years that our ancestors probably were completely plant-based, or 99.9% plant-based. And then there's a time when our ancestors maybe have started introducing some animal foods, but our physiology is still more bonded to the original. But as we developed, the way we started eating animal-based foods is through the use of technology, right? Whether people are starting fires to be able to cook animal foods and make more sophisticated tools to be able to capture and hunt animals, these are more advanced than people give them credit for. And we also started manipulating plant-based foods to breed them and create different kinds of agriculture through plant-based foods too. And so farming is a type of technology as well. And we've bred plants to change them. So I say that we're not we are not just omnivores or herbivores, but we're also technivores. That's what I call us. We use a lot of technology to create foods and things that don't exist in the world. And even tools to hunt and fires to cook, knives to cut, those are forms of technology. And as such, we have a lot of options and choices ahead of us, and a lot of impacts by the way we use technology that can reduce our global environmental impact or increase our global environmental impact. And I don't believe that people should just do what they believe to be, or in many cases misbelieve to be so-called natural, right? Things that people think are natural are in fact forms of technology we've been using for generations. So I think we got to get a little bit out of this mentality. And people say, oh, we go paleo, et cetera, and they think it's natural, but it's actually not. Those are forms of technologies that were being employed. And now we have to rethink our use of technology to optimize human health, food security, protect the environment, and also help animals.
Dog story, if you don't mind.
Right. There are a couple of dog stories that made me think. I was once working at a hospital in India, and I saw this puppy, not too big, um, chase down very quickly and snatch a pigeon. And this pretty small dog, not that big, okay, swallowed the pigeon almost entirely whole and bit off one wing that got left behind, but ate the entire pigeon, feathers and all. It was pretty surprising, that this small puppy, maybe like a foot long or maybe a bit longer than that, it's not tiny, but like it was, still pretty small, was able to do that. I also saw, a couple of years later, there was a dead dog by the side of the road, and then I saw another dog eating this dead dog that was rotting beside the road. It was a puppy. The puppy looked in good health and was doing that. Now, if you can do that, then you're an omnivore. If you, with your bare hands, no tools, nothing, okay, you can catch an animal. You don't have to cook it. You can just bite it. You can just eat it, or maybe it's dead and you can start eating it. Then you are an omnivore. And when people have this omnivore debate, these are the ways that omnivores act in nature, okay? But I don't believe that we're omnivores as such. People do eat animal-sourced foods, but we are technivores because we use technologies to catch, to separate different parts of the animals using sharp tools like knives, etc. Those are forms of technology, and other tools. And we use fire to cook, and then we eat these animals in very selective ways, okay? And that is advanced technology. Even if that was happening 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 years ago, that's technology at use there. Okay, and we are technivores as such, and as such as what I mentioned about plants too, the way we can farm and breed plants and get different cultivars of plants. That's also technivore behavior. Okay, so we're probably mostly herbivore, or physiologically, I believe we are mostly herbivore. But coming out of Africa, spreading around the world, we employed technology to do things to plants and animals to enable us to survive in other climates and populate the world and like that. So I call ourselves as technivore, though our physiology is mostly, herbivore, analogous to herbivores.
I know that was the phrase that caught my ear, was technovore. I never heard that before.
Yeah, I made that up one day. I'm not sure if anybody else has also made that up in using the same word. I've also heard the word choosivore, where we have choices, and that also fits. We have choices that are not available to our distant ancestors. And but even for generations, even for thousands of years, we've been choosivores with the use of technology and being able to adapt to places where we would not otherwise be able to survive.
Awesome. Now tell us about your website, plantbaseddata.org, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So when people are talking about plant-based foods and health, there is so much of a mix of what people say. People are saying all kinds of things, and in some cases quoting some scientific study, and in some cases not. And if you're trying to look up the scientific information regarding these things, it's hard. You're going on Google, and it takes you a long time to search out all the different articles. When I started learning about this, partly thanks to Dr. Michael Greger, who made me realize there's a lot of science behind the nutritional aspects, and I started also researching and trying to look for the environmental implications of plant-based foods. I found that there is so much information I didn't even realize. I started collecting it and organizing it, and eventually found another person who's doing the same kind of work. We merged our databases and we created a project called Plant-Based Data. The idea is that anywhere you are in the world, if somebody's an educator, professor, researcher, student, activist, policymaker, whatever, or a regular person, you can go to this website and find the most important articles in one place together and save yourself time. So it's a good place if you want to learn about heart disease, if you want to learn about land use change in animal agriculture, go to the website, find the appropriate resources there. And in a very short time, you'll find so many good scientific articles together. Okay, it's all mainly scientific articles and institution-based articles like UN documents, etc. And and find the best, most important articles together there. We may miss something, but you'll get the basics. You'll get a very good start on the information.
And I did take a look at that that website and I saw all the papers and how you have them, in different sections and things like that. And it is a lot of information,
It is a
but
lot of.
it's a
We've
great
taken
tool.
thousands. Yeah, we've taken thousands of hours literally to collect all and organize all that. There's a section on health, plant-based diet versus animal agriculture and health. Okay, environment, zoonoses, and we've also started an economics section.
Yeah, it's quite intensive.
Okay,
But
well,
as you
hopefully,
said, it's a great tool for anyone who needs to research something on environment or on health and the different kinds of health issues.
absolutely, and we want to stick to the science. As we're advocating for health, environment, for animals, etc., we want to stick to the science and make sure what we say is accurate. We don't want to exaggerate something, or we don't want to underestimate something either. We want to see what the science says and have our best opinions from that.
And in your words, and after all your research, you believe that a plant-based diet is the best diet to sustain not only ourselves but the planet, and also to end the cruelty to the animals, of course.
There are different implications of plant-based diet, as you mentioned: environment, health, effect on animals, and the suffering of animals. Absolutely, eating plant-based diet is going to be better for animals, right? And it's going to be better for health too. Now, when we talk about plant-based diet for health and environment, technically, we usually refer not just to a vegan diet, but to diets that are predominantly plant-based, right? Predominantly using whole foods and plant-based proteins, even though they may incorporate some smaller percentage of animal-based foods. We don't have research to say that, absolutely, if somebody's 99% plant-based versus 100% plant-based, that one is better than the other. We don't have research to definitively say that. So I can't argue that everybody has to be vegan from a health perspective, but we can argue that they should be predominantly plant-based, whole food. That's going to be very beneficial. Okay. That last little bit that may convince somebody to go completely plant-based, I think there are things that are a little bit, outside of just physical health, right? That's when we're talking about ethics and our philosophy, and trying to, and do we think that a world would be better when more and more individuals really believed in greater circles of compassion, right? And we are raising the bar on our understanding and exercise and emphasis of compassion as well. And I believe that will be a key ingredient to solving problems for not just animals, but for humans and for the environment as well. Our ethics and compassion is going to play a great role. People don't often talk about that in the medical and technical environmental speech, but I think it's also very, very important in this project to make a better world.
Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Mehta, for taking this time to be on the Vegan Pulse. And I will have the information on your website, on our media, and on this at the end of this video as well. So from me to you, thank you for being here. Ahimsa Vegan.
Thank you so much. All right. And hope to connect soon.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Vegan Pulse. Remember to follow our Facebook page, like us too, check out our blog, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.